Hello and welcome back. We are continuing our discussion on the Spotify playlist creator genetic algorithm system, and this is just a literature survey of everything I could find thus far on this topic, ranging from music playlist creation to music analysis, as well as some tutorials on how to design a genetic algorithm using my language of choice, Python. So let's go ahead and get started. We are going to run through these fairly quickly, starting with the actual literature, because we just have a lot of things. Now, the first thing that I found was something called taboo list searching, which basically means that you get a genetic algorithm or a output, and we're using binary activations for the playlist, and you store all those into a list, and you call that your taboo list. If it's already noticed, you just skip it. You don't even look at it. It's already unfit. This increases training time and decreases process time simply because it reduces how many repeated actions you hit. It also seems to add a shift function, so it'll actually do a small amount of crossover to see if there's a more fit version off from anything that hits on the taboo list. There's also this survey on this item on the generation of music playlist and a few of its experiments. It really looks at how you can do multiple models and different ways you can analyze playlist generation. Yeah. So this is another example of the taboo search. It actually does include some time analysis, which showed that the taboo list system works very well. But they also included a interesting element with the GUI leaning towards how a person interacts with these things and the byproducts of it, which when you come to the ethics and the other considerations, the development of humanness and people, which I believe is a very important thing that we as computer engineers should look at with the coming artificial intelligence age. It's something very important. It does seem to be more of a psychology leaning paper than a computer science leaning paper, but I did think that was fairly important to include. This was also another analysis of the emotional spectrum on music and basically how that can apply to the playlist creation. This is important because a couple of the features that I'm looking at from the Spotify API actually deal with the emotions of the song. They don't have a direct emotion, but there are things that relate to that, including key, time signature, tempo, liveliness, other elements such as that. These help create that element of analysis, which this could be important for. This is actually just the effect on human behavior from automated playlist creation. They actually cite the Discovery Weekly playlist and how that affects how humans interact with media today. This is really important for the ethical side of this, and something that we as computer engineers should take into account when we're dealing with these curation algorithms such as playlist creation or even YouTube's recommendation system. This is another one of the hyper-individualization and seeing how that personalization actually affects the algorithms and how the feedback loop of recommending one song that they like can result in this hyper-personalization where you just keep on effectively recommending the same exact song. This is something I want to avoid in my playlist because that's actually one thing I hate about the playlist design from Spotify. And this is a comparison of the content-based music recommendation using different distance estimation methods. Basically, this is just analyzing the different ways that you can recommend music and taking that and comparing them to across from each other. It does compete them against each other to see which one tends to be better, both in runtime and in actual quality. Once again, taking human surveys. This uses another emotional filtering system to basically just take a set of music tone them to a specific level based on frequency values. So they actually analyzed the song, pulled out the emotional values for it. This may come in handy with a stretch goal of mine, which would be to actually increase the data that's coming from it by pulling stuff from the Spotify API, running through the song, and doing an analysis based on that, and then using that to build the overall algorithm that can then be used to build anything that you would like. And this is once again another example of personalization. So this improves on the typical recommendation system, but it actually uses different objective sets. This is important here because I actually have two opposing objectives. I would like to create playlists that are fairly similar, but still have a significant amount of variety. So effectively, if you were to make a curve, a two-dimensional curve of my my fitness function, you would find that extreme variety and extreme similarity result in the highest positives, which could be good or bad. And this is once again another AI-based version of this. The difference with this, though, is that it uses machine learning. And so basically this would be more like a stretch goal, but something still very useful, is essentially take and make 10 playlists, and now give each one of those playlists a rank, and then run that through and add that for machine learning based on the content creation. Not necessarily within the scope of this semester, but still something that is, I think, very beneficial to analyze. Genetic algorithms to solve a 0-1 knapsack problem. Now, this is the beginning of our tutorials. This is basically just a sample of how to use the knapsack problem, which, as stated in my previous presentation, this actually directly ties to what we're doing. We're really doing a modified knapsack problem because, again, I'm setting a time limit for how long the playlist should be without repeats. So we want at minimum this, and we don't want it too much more. So you will get penalties for increasing it above, and you will fail for getting it below. And then exploring the Spotify API, this is the tutorial that will be most beneficial with what we're doing, because if I can get this to work properly, I would like to automate at least adding this as a playlist to your Spotify profile, or what I would like to do is optimize it so that it can also take in a group of playlists, or your liked playlist, your liked songs playlist, and use that to curate a playlist for maybe an event or something specific to you. This is another example of basically assisting on scaling to large data sets. As we're adding more and more data from this, if we use the Spotify API, this could get very much out of hand. So I want to make sure to go ahead and be ahead of the game by looking at this. This is directly related to pandas, which is something I'll be using for my genetic algorithms. This is an example of how to make GUIs. This is something useful for the fact that I do want to add some ranking and some automation to this and maybe make it useful. This is more towards the stretch goal side of things, but something that would be very helpful long term. Then we just have another example of how to implement a genetic algorithm. In general, this is not going to hurt or detriment the project, because having multiple examples allows a better understanding of how to implement a genetic algorithm in general, and what tools are available. I will be using other tools such as Jupyter's Notebooks and other minor tutorials related to those, and other video tutorials, but these were the ones that I found this week, and I will be adding more hopefully in the future. But yes, I do hope that you guys have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see y'all later. Make sure to leave comments in the video or on Canvas.